but then also I'm a visual, and so I like giving examples. And so when I do educations, a lot of times I'll bring in like a beautiful plant flourishing, it looks amazing. And then I'll have this other pot over here with dirt and a stick in it, right? And so what did it take to make this plant flourish? It was, fertilizing it, giving it water, giving it sunshine, and taking care of it, right? But when you don't take care of it, this is what your organs do when you don't water your organs, because we're made of mostly water.
Mm-hmm.
And you're drying out your organs. So when people can visualize, well, if I don't drink my water, I'm drying out my brain, I'm drying out my heart, I'm drying out my muscles. We get muscle spasms because a lot of times we're dehydrated.
Yep.
And sleep. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why water is so important. And it's not just because, they say you're supposed to drink water. There's a reason behind it.
Right. Welcome to the Wealth and Wellness All Women Rock podcast, hosted by me, Tamara, the CEO and founder of All Women Rock Global. Join me on this journey as we explore topics, conversations, and interviews related to wealth and wellness. Let's get started. Welcome back for another episode of the Wealth and Wellness podcast by All Women Rock. On today's episode, we will be talking about unraveling inflammation in your body with Miranda Griffin. Miranda Griffin is a wife, an artist, an entrepreneur, and lover of all things nature. She's the proud owner of Healthy Midsouth and wellness coordinator with the Juice Plus company. About 9 years ago, Miranda had been going through a lot of health issues. She had been diagnosed with fibromyalgia and was in the beginning stages of menopause. She then began to have extreme joint pain. It was to the point where she could barely walk. It even hurt to wear shoes. She had lost most of her muscle mass and felt exhausted within minutes of doing anything. She couldn't even open up a tube of toothpaste. In addition, she had lost half of her hair. As an artist, all of these inflammatory issues were devastating and mentally disruptive. Literally, she was a hot mess and blamed everything on menopause. Miranda had been going to the doctor every 3 months for blood tests to find out what was going on. Almost 3 years later, they finally diagnosed her with RA and lupus. During this time, she was about taking 8 medications and knew either her autoimmune issues were going to shorten her life or the drugs would. This is when the research began for eating foods that were healthy. A friend of hers introduced her to Juice Plus. She wasn't expecting a miracle, however, she knew her body needed all the plant powders that it provided in a simple way so that she could be consistent every day. Long story short, after being on the product for just a few months, she began to see results. The longer she was consistent, she began to feel better. Now Miranda celebrates being off all of her meds and feels better than ever. Her autoimmune diseases are now under control and she's now thriving and not just surviving. Her passion is to inform others through education and art therapy coaching. She shares how simple it is to prevent, improve, and many times recover from a surviving state of health to thriving and celebrating life. This episode was so informative for me as someone that also suffers from autoimmune disease, and I know how it can be. I know how flare-ups can be. I know how painful they can be. So on today, we talked about inflammation and how to get rid of it. What are our triggers? What foods are our triggers? How stress is a trigger? It's a great informative episode. So without further ado, here's our episode with Miranda. Welcome back to another episode of the Wealth and Wellness podcast by All Women Rock. On today, I'm here with my friend, artist, entrepreneur, and proud owner of Healthy Midsouth and wellness coordinator for Juice Plus company. Thank you so much for joining us on today, Miranda.
Good to be here.
Yes. There's so much we have to talk about your health and wellness journey. I know that you do a lot of activities here in the Memphis area. Are you originally from here?
Pretty much. I moved here when I was 3. So yes,
Yes, you
90,
are.
90 plus years, 90% of my life. Yeah.
Yes, you are a Memphian. If you've been here since 3, you're a Memphian.
All I know. That's all I know.
Yes. Can you share with us how you got started on your health and wellness journey?
Absolutely. As you said, I'm an artist, and I have my business that I've had for 30 years is a faux finishing business, and painting every day, climbing scaffold. It's very laborious. And there was some time about 10 years ago, I started feeling very lethargic, and my joints started hurting. And so as you get older, you blame everything on age, right? You think, oh, it's just a part of getting old. And oh, it's just a little arthritis. But things were progressing. And then I entered into the glorious menopause days. And when that happens, you blame everything on menopause. But I was in a lot of pain. I lost half my hair. I got to the point where I could barely walk. My grip, I could barely even hold on to anything. I couldn't even open a cap of toothpaste. It got so painful. And there was a lot of other things that I was going through during that time. But as time progressed, things started getting worse. And as an artist, the thought of not being able to use my hands or even climb a ladder or do anything like that, the things that we take for granted, really started to scare me. And I started to research foods to eat to heal. Well, the reason I started doing that, every time I would go to the doctor, they was upping my prescription drugs. I was on 8 at that time,
Wow.
and were either upping my prescriptions or they were wanting to give me new additional prescriptions. And so I got to the point, I said, okay, I'm not doing this. I can't. Because when you start researching what those medicines can actually do to the body, in addition to what it's supposed to be helping, is very scary in itself as well. And that's when I was talking to an interior designer friend of mine, and she goes, Miranda, you might want to look into this product. And that's how I came upon Juice Plus. And all that was just fruits and vegetables in a capsule. And it made sense because I was able to flood my body with over 45 different plant foods every day. So I knew my body needed it. I wasn't expecting a miracle. But over a period of time, I started feeling a little bit better. I had migraine since high school. That was the first thing that went away. And that's when I realized that there is something to do with what you put in your body. Well, through this experience over the next few years after I started doing this, I was meeting with different holistic healthcare professionals to learn more about what I can do to optimize my health. Because the last thing I wanted to do was someone change my diapers at such an early age. And at this time, I was in my late 40s at the time. I'm thinking I'm too young to feel 100 years old. Well, through that journey, meeting these people and building relationships with them, they really helped me to understand other things that was going on in my body, or they gave me simple steps to do to improve my body. Whatever it was, I made mental note of that because it did make a difference in my life. Well, after a period of time, I, it just kind of hit me. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, if I'm going through all this, how many other people are going through this as well? And people need to know that it's not rocket science. People can feel better, heal, sometimes totally heal, but they can always improve. And that's how Healthy Midsouth started. Was we were doing, I was setting up educationals at the library or wherever people would listen to us. And that's how that company got started. I would schedule different panel talks, and we would have different topics, whether it was heart disease, diabetes, or bowel issues, or menopause. It didn't matter. And that was what spun to where we are today. And I cannot not share with people, because now I'm off all 8 of my meds that I was on at the time, feel better than I have in years. And just knowing that taking these simple steps. Now, don't get me wrong, it took some time, and it was hard for the fact that I was changing habits that I had since childhood. And it was a mental change as well. So that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Yeah.
There's a lot more to that, but it is a huge difference in what we do and how that makes a big difference, just knowing those things.
Mm-hmm. That's true. When you mentioned as far as like the different habits, would you change as far as like eating habits as well? Different foods that you would eat?
Right. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
The first year I didn't do what we call the elimination diet. What I did was had just started on the product and just flooding my body that so needed. Just that alone made a big difference. So eating lots and lots of fruits and vegetables makes a big difference in your life. Literally, it makes a huge difference. But after a period of time, I'm thinking, okay, what's the next level? Because I knew I wasn't going to do everything at front. I mean, all at once. It was kind of overwhelming. And I knew me. It's like if I try to do everything at once, I would give up because I would feel like, oh, I can't do this. And then the elimination diet came into play. And I started with the easiest thing for me because I knew I could do one thing. And that first one thing was getting plenty of water, drinking minimum of half my body weight in ounces every day. So that was my first one. That was real simple for me to do. And when it became a natural habit, then I went to the next thing. And the next one for me was getting more sleep. And then I started focusing on the diet. I started focusing on eating less, practically no processed food, processed sugar. And then the next thing that was easy for me was no caffeine and no alcohol. And then I got to the point to where I was getting into the harder things for me, and that was no gluten. And then the last thing that I got rid of, which is now like all these things are like my splurge. I don't do them every day. It's a random thing that I do them. But the last one was so hard. It took me 3 months to eliminate it, but it was cheese.
Mm-hmm.
So any dairy, so
Mm-hmm.
milk, from a cow's milk. Uh, I didn't realize, oh my gosh, Tamara, I was eating cheese all day long. I mean, it was my
Wow.
snack of string cheese, Baby Bell, I
Mm-hmm.
didn't care if it was fake cheese. I was eating any kind of cheese, Cheetos.
Just loving cheese.
Oh yeah. But that was the last I eliminated.
Okay. With the
Mhm.
for those that might not be familiar with it, is the elimination diet, is there something that that's out there that, or it was just something methodology that you created for yourself?
Oh, it's pretty much across the board. When you talk to anyone about the elimination diet, all it is things that are very inflammatory. Okay. So all five of those areas of so-called food or the caffeine or alcohol, it's, in moderation, it's not going to do the damage that we think, but understand that it does do something to our body. And you talk to anyone that is, whether it's a holistic dietitian or someone that educates on holistic lifestyle, they're going to tell you those are the areas that you want to stay away from. Like I said, randomly is one thing, but a lot of these things I was doing every day or every 2 or 3 days, but it was, over a period of years. And you think what you do consistently is going to do something to you, whether it's something good to you or something bad.
That's true. That's true. For someone that's maybe struggling with inflammation and is interested in like maybe starting the elimination diet, would you say start with something easier and kind of work their way down like you did?
Absolutely. The reason I suggest that is I want people to stick with it. And when you do something that seems easy and you get through that first one, you go, oh, well, this is easy. This was easy. I can do this. And then you go to the next one. It might be a little challenging, but you've got through one, then you can do another. It's just like the water. I tell people drink 8 more ounces of water than what you did yesterday. Like if you're used to just getting 16 ounces of water, well, just add 8 more ounces. Just
Yeah.
get to where that, and then build up to where you need to be. But then also I'm a visual. And so I like giving examples. And so when I do educations, a lot of times I'll bring in like a beautiful plant flourishing, it looks amazing. And then I'll have this other pot over here with dirt and a stick in it. Right. And so what did it take to make this plant flourish? It was, fertilizing it, giving it water, giving it sunshine, and taking care of it, right? But when you don't take care of it, this is what your organs do when you don't water your organs, because we're made of mostly water.
Mm-hmm.
And you're drawing out your organs. So when people can visualize, well, if I don't drink my water, I'm drawing out my brain, I'm drawing out my heart, I'm drawing out my muscles. We get muscle spasms because a lot of times we're dehydrated.
Yep.
And sleep. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why water is so important. And it's not just because, they say you're supposed to drink water. There's a reason behind it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. For anyone that maybe has inflammation, I've struggled with it for years. What would you say the trigger foods, or I know you mentioned caffeine and dairy, and what else?
Okay. The 5 areas of food to eliminate would be caffeine, definitely caffeine, alcohol, dairy, cow's milk. Okay. Anything from a cow's milk. And then the other 2 is gluten and processed food. And out of that processed food, processed sugar is probably the number 1 inflammatory feeder next to cheese. I mean, they're all feed that inflammation. There's another example that Bill Sears, he gave this example one time, and it always stuck in my brain. Like I said, I'm a visual, and he teaches children. So, put it this way, if a 3rd grader can't understand it, then we shouldn't be trying to educate, because we want to keep it simple. But in our bodies, we have inflammation. Sometimes inflammation is good. Like when you cut yourself, that inflammation, you heal, right? That's a good inflammation. But you get inflammation that can create autoimmune issues or sickness and disease. You got foods that fight that inflammation, like little firefighters. So think of that word inflammation. It's little fires in our body. So you got foods that will fight that fire and put that fire out. But then you've got foods that are like kindling or like feeding that fire that's going to make it worse. And when you have so much inflammation, then your body turns on itself and starts tearing itself down. And then that creates a cold, sinus infection. Then it can get into something more serious like cancer, disease, or lupus. Like I was diagnosed with lupus and RA and fibromyalgia. Those are the top of my top three list. Mm-hmm. And so many times it just continues to create more problems when we don't get a handle on it.
Yep. Yep. I remember I'm not sure if you even remember this. When my youngest daughter had a sinus infection, and my husband and I were at a meeting with you, and I told you she had a sinus infection. You said she drinking milk. I was like, yeah. And he was like, stop giving her milk. And immediately when I stopped, I could see a difference in the coughing and the draining. I was like, wow. For years we hear milk does a body good. We should drink the cow's milk, and just like, that's not necessarily true.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah. So if we, the things that you mentioned, for some of us are things that we absolutely love. The caffeine, we might need a little wine, gluten. So does that mean we need to switch to like a vegan diet or vegetarian, or how do we enjoy the things that we kind of like still and change our habits?
That's a great question. And the reason I'm saying that is because a lot of people, again, when they hear those things, the first thing that they do is they think of the things that they can't have. Yeah. Right. And that's just the way our brain works. But think about the things that you can have and what you like. So first it's changing the mindset, but understanding why you shouldn't eat it all the time. Now, if you don't have any issues, it's one thing to keep that in moderation, but if you've got issues and you really, really want to heal yourself, the elimination diet is a great way to start. And I want to say this, it's like once you eliminate something and you stay off it for several months and see how your body feels, and you're going to start feeling so much better. And then if you bring something back in, really pay attention to how your body's going to feel the next 2 or 3 days. Because now when I eat cheese is like my splurge. I mean, I splurge on all of it randomly here and there. sometimes more times than other holidays, we get that. But at one point I wasn't doing it all because I knew I needed to get better because I was very scared. Uh, but when you bring something back in, like for me, when I eat cheese, immediately within hours, I start getting all congested.
Mm.
I get drainage, and it creates a lot of phlegm, and it actually, depending on what kind of cheese it is, sometimes my joints immediately feel stiff, and then I really feel it the next day. Um, Especially when you first wake up in the morning. And I do a lot of, and the same thing happens when I have processed food, the stiffness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the thing is, you don't realize you don't have to be allergic to gluten for it to interfere with your body. Think of the word gluten. Gluten, glue, it's glue. It sticks the
Yeah.
body together. And if I'm not mistaken, I think it takes a month for it to get out of your system.
Wow. That's a
So
long time.
yeah, that's a very long time, longer than meat. I
Wow.
still eat. I don't, I try to
Mhm.
pick and choose what I eat, but I don't tell anybody not to eat anything. It's your
Mhm.
choice. But understand, every choice you make
Mhm.
is in you.
Yep. You're right. Because I also have an autoimmune disorder. And I noticed when I cut out coffee that I would feel better. As soon as I started back drinking it, I would
Mhm.
break out and then I would not feel well and have like I would have I guess you could say like an attack. It was just like I cannot every time I tried to drink it, I was like, I can't do coffee. So now I'll do tea in the morning, like hot tea every now and then. But I'm very conscious now of my caffeine intake because I see how it affects my body.
Yeah. And a little bit is, occasionally I'll have a cup of coffee, but I've switched over to, of course, I do a lot of tea anyway. I like the different teas. I do a lot of the inflammatory detox teas, like dandelion tea,
Mm-hmm.
um, heart tea. I just like the heart tea because it's all the berries. It just tastes good.
Mm-hmm.
But I also, I have like this little ritual. I get up every morning, I have a little detox drink, and I can always give you the recipe for that. But I do like a little shot of that every morning, along with 8 ounces of warm water,
Mm-hmm.
and then I started drinking mushroom coffee, and I really like it. It was very earthy smelling,
Mm-hmm.
and first I wasn't sure if I was going to like it, but I put a little bit of honey in mine. I add a little extra cinnamon, and I put a little bit of and I like pumpkin spice. So I put a little pumpkin spice in there, and then a splash of oat milk creamer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Kind of give it that coffee vibe. And sometimes I put it in, sometimes I don't, because now I like it without it. But that's how I learned to drink it. And then I've tried different ones, and I'd be more than happy to tell you, the different ones I've tried. But I switch over, and that makes me, I feel great
Yeah.
when I do. Uh,
I'm gonna have to, yeah, you have to send me the recipe. I would like to have that because I do like even I get up sad when I'm smelling coffee and I'm like, oh, I can't, I can't even have any. Just smell it.
it smells great. Now, have you tried decaf?
No, because I guess I want the caffeine too, so I just like forget it.
I like the flavor of a good coffee, and so sometimes I'll do a decaf, and because like I said, I like what I put in mine. I do cinnamon. Like I said, I do the cinnamon and the pumpkin spice, sometimes a little splash of cocoa. So I like
Mhm.
flavored, lots of flavor, and all those things are really good for you anyway. But but yeah, if you like coffee, you can always try the decaf, and it kind of gives you that placebo to
Mhm.
it. There's actually little teeny tiny amount of caffeine in it, but it's not enough to register, apparently. That's why decaf.
Yeah.
But so you don't do that with teas when you're drinking some of the teas that have caffeine. You don't have the issues.
Not really. Not a whole lot. I'm not sure if you're familiar with like the loaded teas that are
Hmm.
places here. There are a couple of places I can't go because I'll have a bad reaction from those. There's one place that I've went to. I haven't been in a few months, but that I wouldn't have a reaction with
Nope.
theirs, but yeah. Um, the tea that I drink in the morning that kind of gives me the coffee flavor just a little bit is the
Yeah.
chai tea. I like to have the chai tea. I like the oat milk in it as well. But I don't drink it every day at all because of I'm always afraid of a flare up. So it's just like I'd rather, like you stated, I'd rather do a little bit as possible. Or if I do drink like a whole cup, I will drink one of these full things of essential water afterwards because I'm just so nervous because a flare up takes a while to come down for me, and I don't feel like dealing with it.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And see about flare ups, one of my warning signs is when I know I've gone too far is being light skinned. I can start seeing blemishes on my belly.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think that's the lupus starting to come up. So because you can get splotchy skin, and that's one of my notice. That's when I notice that I say, oh, okay, it's like just knock it off,
Yeah.
because I don't want it to go any further. Because just like you, when you have these episodes, you you don't want to, but sometimes it's very tempting when you go out to.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, especially to a party or something. Oh, I want that. I want that. I want to try that. That looks so good. And it's like
Yeah.
gluten, gluten,
Yeah.
gluten, sugar, sugar, sugar. But it's all these tasty things, right?
Yeah.
And it's hard to say no when
Mm-hmm.
you did.
Yeah.
And but yeah,
Yeah.
it's just making choices,
Yeah.
and it takes time to.
It does. It does. And for me, one thing I mentioned when I did an episode that'll come out later with Terry Mecklin was that
Mhm.
for me, the issue that I didn't like was when I go to the doctor, they give me antibiotics, but some of them I would have reactions to certain things, and then pain medicine. Can't take pain medicine at all because it makes me nauseous and I throw up. Then they give me something else for the nausea, and I was like, I don't like taking medicine for medicine, so I got to do something. I got to change something up.
Yeah, and it does. It starts. So just like I was saying earlier, just the elimination diet is a great way to start. Just knowing those 5 areas increases inflammation. And just, even if, let's say you eat all 5 or drink and eat all 5, well, just cut it back in
Yeah,
half, and then
yeah,
pick one that you can cut out and, eliminate. And
yeah,
then as time goes by, if you want to splurge on it, again, just pay attention to how you feel afterwards. And then that will also change your attitude and
hmm
your mind on what you do.
yeah. With my autoimmune disease, stress is a trigger for me too. So I kind of noticed if I'm stressed, I'm gonna have to really change up what I eat because I would definitely have a flare up during that time. So sometimes I'll try to incorporate more juices, like in the morning when I know
Hmm.
I'm stressed about something that I can't control. I shouldn't be stressed, but it's kind of natural to be upset about certain things. But yeah.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
And that's a good point, because stress creates more inflammation too. People don't realize that whether it's a good stress would be working out. People that work out a lot
Hmm.
and then replenish their body with what they need. So let's say you're not eating much and you're working out heavily all the time. You're not putting enough of the foods in your body to repair itself, and then again it can create all these issues. And I mean, you hear about, look at runners. I mean, there's so many runners out there. They run all the time, and a lot of, like, I have friends that I've known for a long time, and they look 20 years older than what they
Hmm.
should.
Yeah.
And they eat horribly. you
Hmm.
know they run and think, well, I can run off the calories of all the bad stuff I'm eating, but it's still affecting their body. And of course, these young athletes you hear all the time, there's no telling, why they have these I mean, nobody should have a heart attack at 20 years old,
That's true.
but they
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
It's very,
Yeah.
yeah.
I saw recently that you did like you can correct me if I'm wrong, a cranberry tea detox or something. Can you
That's,
explain more about that to me?
yeah. If you were to look up, um, what cranberry juice is good for, and I do the unsweetened, the 100% just pure cranberry juice, no added sugars. It's very tart because it's not sweet at all. And then let's see, you think of the recipe. It's 4 parts cranberry juice, 2 parts lemon juice, and then 1 part apple cider vinegar with the mother. And so I usually make up a big batch, and then I pour 7 ounces out, and then I pour hot water into that because I keep it in the refrigerator, because when it's cold, it's even extra tart. But when it's kind of warm, it's easier to swallow, but it's very tart. But I do that it's the first thing I do when I get up in the morning. I go in there, do my shot, and then I wash my face, and then I go back and I fix my, I have another little bit of warm water, and then I fix my mushroom coffee. That's kind of my original. So it's 4-2-1 is the recipe. And I get the organic, it's I forget the name brand, but I can send that information to you, what I use. And then, but yeah, but when you look at what, cranberry juice is for, and lemon juice and apple cider vinegar, sometimes I even put, I do like 64 ounces of cranberry juice at a time. So with the ratio of that, but sometimes I add an additional 32 ounces of the ginger juice in with that too. So I'll mix it up a little bit, because ginger's good too. But just to do the basic, those 3 is easy to do.
So was it a challenge that you did, or it was just like a recommendation or something? Because I saw it on, I'll just say I saw it on Gwendolyn's LinkedIn.
Yeah, because she's in one of my small groups, private groups, and I can add you into that. We're always posting different healthy tips and stuff, and been doing this probably for 5 or 6 years. And that's just one of the recipes that they recommend to do a detox. Another thing that we do in addition to that is, you were talking about earlier, for someone wanting to get started, we do a 10-day shred, where we do everything I just told you, where we do the elimination diet for 10 days. And anybody can do something in 10 days. And what's nice is it kind of kickstarts you to start the healthy habits. Like, oh, I can do something for 10 days. I can just do it for 10 days. And know that you can go back to your normal. And then every month we do that. I do that the first of every month. In fact, I just started today, because I started, or no, not today. I'm starting tomorrow. I already pre-started anyway, because I needed to, because I was bad last weekend. So, but I'm starting tomorrow. So it's usually the first 10 days of the month. And it's just a great way to do that. But what's interesting is, I know the first time I did it, I cheated a lot, but I was very aware.
Yeah.
So the first couple months, I didn't do it 100%. It was like, oh, I gave into this, I gave into that. It was usually cheese. And so, but I do remember the first time I did it 100% for 10 days, I felt better. It made me feel so good. It's like, you know what? I can do this every month.
Yeah.
And when I did that every month for about 6 months, I said, and then I started doing it every day anyway. And then that's when everything just elevated to another level of healing for me some years ago. And so that's led me to, really focusing on a better diet. And then I got better and somewhat in remission. And so I splurge a little more often than I do now, which I shouldn't, but I do. And but what is really cool is the fact that it does make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
It really makes a difference.
Yeah. You're right. I'm not fully there yet, but I know what you mean.
Mm-hmm.
You explain more about the Healthy Midsouth. Do you guys have any upcoming classes?
Usually we have them. I haven't set anything up for just random. Now, mostly what I do is people call me, and I schedule for them personal, whether it's a small group or a company that wants us to come in. I find out what topics they want to discuss, and then I create a program especially for them for that day, whether it's a 1.5 hour workshop or if they want a seminar or symposium. It depends on what we do. So it's developed to what the person that is asking for or the client wants.
Mm-hmm.
Since COVID, we haven't gone back into the libraries yet. I'm thinking we probably will. However, our schedule's been really good lately, so it's just finding the time. And I just want to kind of iterate a little bit of my part of Healthy Mid-South. What I teach is I teach similar to what I was just talking about. Having a simple steps to a healthier life through diet. And but part of that is also the art therapy and coaching. A lot of times we do things, whether sometimes it's food art, whether it's um, or creating with paint or planting. It's just creating a lifestyle for people to understand that it's a bigger picture. And so I've been doing a lot of those, and those are smaller classes, and so those are a lot of fun. So and I can keep you posted on when we do different things, but it's a variety of educations, and that's what I love about Healthy Mid-South is it's not just one cookie cutter education.
Yeah. That's helpful because sometimes people tend to shy away from certain things that are healthy because they feel like it's not fun or that it's one cut way that it has to be done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm interested to learn more about the art coaching therapy. You say you guys do something with plants as well?
Yeah. One of the ones that I had, it's been a few months back, but we took terracotta pots and we painted them. We had everything out and everybody painted them. And it was actually a brunch. And then we took a break and had our brunch. And we discussed meant for more. What are your goals? What do you aspire to do? Your dreams. Where do you see yourself? It's to get people to understand that wellness is not just eating a good diet. It's taking care of you. It's self-care, and part of that self-care is self-awareness. So during our brunch, we discussed self-awareness, and then that gave the pots time to dry. And then we went back out and then we filled them with dirt. And as they were filling with dirt and planting the plants, we had give the girl that does this with me. She has tons of aloe veras and what were the other violets. So they either whoever came took a violet home or a aloe vera plant. And so while they were planting this, I was discussing just that. It's like understanding that wellness is doing something like this, whether it's gardening or finding a hobby that you like, because what that does, it gets your mind off the normal stresses of everyday life, and you're able to relax, and that in itself is healing.
Yeah.
And helps you to recover and take a breath, right?
Yeah.
Back and take a breath.
I love that. I've always wanted, I'm not sure why I haven't got one, but I've always wanted an aloe vera plant.
I got you covered.
What would you say to someone, because there are some of those in my life that are diehard lovers of Western medicine. If they finger hurt, they go into the doctor and get a prescription. So what would you say to someone that grew up on Western medicine that doesn't believe like the holistic health regimens work?
Yes, there is a time and place for Western medicine. I know for me, I needed something. I know when I was going through all my issues, especially when the menopause hit, I literally thought I was going to jump out of my skin. I temporarily was on antidepressants uh, because I was so mentally distraught with all the pain. I was on prednisone, which is probably one of the worst things you could take, but that was the only thing that actually lightened up the pain a little bit. And I, you know, it helped for a little while, but I knew after a certain point I didn't want to stay on it. So I think it goes back to education. When people read, because that's what I did. It's like I took that sheet of paper that comes with your medication and look at the side effects.
Mm-hmm.
Then you look it up online, what damage it can do to the body. So all the while it may be helping my mental wellness, it's damaging my kidneys, it's
Mm-hmm.
damaging, the different organs that it has to go through.
Yeah.
And so with that said too, it's making your body work harder. It's making your heart work harder because it's having to process all that, right? So everything is connected to everything. So while Western medicine, some people have to have it, I get that. But why not start a healthy diet in with that and then check yourself in 6 months, check yourself in a year? Because I hear it all the time. And that the longer someone starts eating better, look at all the people that can get off their diabetic medicine
Mm-hmm.
because they changed their diet, or they were able to cut back on their heart medicine because they changed their diet. Their cholesterol is lower, so they were able to get off cholesterol medicine. So it does make a difference on what you do. And and then so that's all the difference in the world is how you react to what you're putting in your body. And
Yep.
when you research what's in there, it's in your hands. Your health is in your hands. So
Yeah.
understand, when you research, you're doing your body good. You're doing your mind good
Yeah.
when you take those steps.
I agree. I totally agree. I just know that there are a lot of people that kind of, feel a certain way about the holistic and Western medicine. That was for me, that was something that's like, I still, have to take a couple of medicines, but not a lot. I'm in this Facebook group with other people that have the same autoimmune disorder as me. And
Mm-hmm.
just to see so many of them, like, did you try this antibiotic? Did you try this? Did you try the Humira? And it's just like,
No,
there's
no.
a better way.
Mm-hmm. And see what I love about now on my Juice Plus team, I'm actually my two main partners is a nurse and a ER doctor. And so whenever I have medical questions, I'm calling one of them. One of them, the nurse, she was a NIC nurse. She was an emergency children's nurse and NIC nurse, and the other doctor, he was an ER doctor for 20 plus years. So they saw everything that came through, and they'll tell you. They say, it's all about, they feel obligated as a nurse and a doctor that they have to tell their patients that diet makes a difference. Yes, you may need the medicine, but hopefully the medicine is temporarily, but diet is number one.
Mm.
And I love what the one doctor says. He says, never trust a doctor that says you can't change your body when you don't, or how did he say it? Never trust a doctor that doesn't believe that you can change your health by eating better, because most doctors, only have about 10 hours worth of nutrition, and that's not even touching the surface of what's out there.
That's true. And if you think about all the years that they go to school and to
Mm-hmm.
just 10 hours, that's not a lot. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
And that's if they don't skip that class.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So can you tell our listeners more where they can find more information about you if they're interested in maybe booking a class or getting started with Juice Plus, or just maybe booking a consultation with you?
Sure. Yeah, my website is healthymidsouth.net, and you're welcome to go check that out. And under a little bit of, it's being refreshed because the site's been out there for a while. And then I have my eatyourveggies.net is the Juice Plus site. But you're welcome to reach out to me. You can call or text or email. And my email is Mirland, Mirland, at Comcast.net. That's my personal email. And my phone number is 901-859-2410. I what's interesting, and anyone that is, if they're on also Facebook, I have a couple of pages there, but one of them I have a private page with my Juice Plus team where we have doctors, pharmacists, nurses. We're always putting on healthy recipes. People have questions. They're putting their questions on there. They can ask their questions. I'll be more than happy to add them into that Healthy You page. And so it's not just me. And I can always do a 3-way conversation with the nurse or the doctor if people have medical questions. Because you're right, because a lot of people are concerned, I don't want to get off. I don't tell anybody get off your medicine. That is not my place. I am not a doctor. But I will say, check your numbers before you start change, and then change. And in 6 months, go back and look at your numbers again and see for yourself how your body's changing.
Yep. I love that. The last question, I know what it means, but I'd like to ask all my podcast guests, what does wellness mean to you?
I love that. Wellness to me is a lot of things, but the first thing that comes to mind is living life without any troubles.
I love that. I always ask that question because I always say on the Wealth and Wellness podcast, wealth looks different for us. Wellness looks different for everyone else. So thank you for that answer. All of Miranda's links and information that she listed will be listed in our show notes. Thank you so much, Miranda, for being with us on today.
Okay. Thank you for having me.
If you've made it this far in the episode, it shows you are interested and committed. If you want more of Wealth and Wellness, tune in every Tuesday for a new episode. I would love for you to subscribe and share. Your experience on this show means a lot to me. I want to welcome you to click the link in the show notes to leave us a comment or a question. It's speakpipe.com/allwomenrock. The link is listed in the show notes. You never know, you just might be on our next episode. Be sure to follow us on all social media channels at All Women Rock Global. Until next time.